Hello, viator! In celebration of the sequel being on the horizon, let's take a look into The World Ends With You and what type of game it is. The game got released 2007, 3 years into the lifespan of the Nintendo DS. Back then, there was quite a fuss around it. It was modern and addressed a lot of modern and sometimes even dark topics. Its battle system was unique and stood out. The World Ends With You was a major title for the Nintendo DS, which got critical acclaim, but somehow it almost vanished from our views and only now returns to the surface. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to approach the game without accidentally running into spoilers. Even Wikipedia throws a major one right in front of you within its first paragraph. Just by checking 2 sources, I know already more than I wanted to. All the content you will see in this video will be footage of the first 2 in-game days, which is equivalent to the first 2 hours into the game. As I haven't played further into it just yet, I can't spoil you the rest of the experience. Now that this should be clear, let's take a look at the game's premise. You will find yourself in the 2000s Tokyo. You step into Neko's shoes, who wakes up in the middle of Shibuya's crossroad, a pin in his hand. You don't know how you got there or what this is, but flipping it gives you access to the thoughts of the people around you. Soon after, creatures will appear from nowhere, erasing the people around you. To escape the same fate, Neko will enter a pact with this young lady. She will explain to you that you both are partaking in the Reaper game, a game that will last for 7 days, and only those who complete a daily mission will survive it. Neko does not know how he got into this, or what all this is about. He does not really care. He does care for no one, except himself. Not necessarily someone easy to sympathize with, but an interesting viewpoint. The game has a clear focus on its story, and maybe even more so its characters. As such, you will encounter a dialogue-focused game. The conversations between those characters feel fleshed out and real. They are not voiced, so you will need to read them. The World Ends With You is a rhythmic action title, at least when it comes to the DS version. What does this mean? Well, you fight simultaneously at both screens. In the top screen, fighting is handled via combos of the directional buttons, whereas the bottom screen is operated with the stylus. If a combo was successful on one screen, a green orb will float to the other, increasing the strength of the next attacks on that screen. So you ideally want a constant hopping of this orb. The game gives you the option to fine-tune its difficulty settings, and if no input is given for the top screen, it will run automatically, which does not seem to generate those combo orbs though. Especially the lower screen is very demanding. There's a lot of different mechanics involved in using different types of Psych. Psych is something akin to magic, and there is no normal attack you can smash instead. Overall, you should know that it's a complex battle system with a lot to learn. Based on statistics at how long to beat, the game will take something around 40 hours to be completed. Its story holds the promise of being something which will leave a lasting impact, based on the hype it got back in 2007. In my perception, The World Ends With You has this tag on it, saying, "Must play for JRPG fans." I remember there was so much hype surrounding it. Too much for my liking. That's why I skipped it back then. My focus was more on medieval fantasy than a modern setting with kids my age. Time passed, and I'm open to a wider range of experiences. Time to pick up this gem and see what it really is all about. But what about you? Remember, just based on the intro of the game, I wouldn't call it a beginner-friendly RPG. I guess when you're coming from more demanding action games, this will be gameplay-wise fine for you. Probably more so than for the average RPG player. Conversation-wise, well, RPGs in general have a heavier focus on text, and The World Ends With You is quite average in the amount of text it throws at you. Its battle system is demanding, but unique, and the difficulty can be customized to your needs. It's one of the few DS JRPGs that received a real hype back in the day, which promises an experience worth the 40 hours it takes to complete. I am glad that the game steps out of the shadows. It finally gets a sequel, 14 years after its original release, and even an anime to recap the events for all those who never got to play it. Well, for me, I got hooked, and I will continue to play the original. If you want, you can hop on. I will release the first part of my experience with it next week. Hope to see you there. Bye.